I'm pretty sure that we've all experienced times when we felt burnt out or we felt overwhelmed by having to juggle all of our responsibilities. So whether that's work, relationships, kids, looking after parents, and goodness knows what else. And maybe even feeling trapped in a repeating cycle and it feels like there's no way out. So in this short video, I just want to share a technique that I use to help people to actually cut through this and find their way out. And no, it doesn't mean packing a toothbrush and a pair of undies and running for the hills. It's a bit more practical than that. So the first step in all of this is actually to realise or recognise actually that it's not so much the physical strain of carrying all of these responsibilities, although I get, that you're probably feeling really tired, maybe you're not even sleeping very well, so it can feel as though it's like a physical burden. But in actual fact, what's causing this feeling of being weighed down is all the emotional baggage that comes with the responsibilities. Now, of course, you can't delve into every possibility here, but I think it's fair to say that every responsibility will come with its own emotional baggage. And it may not seem obvious. The emotions evoked would very much depend on your individual blueprint, and we all have one. And when I say blueprint, I'm referring to, all of those habits, those opinions and those beliefs that we've been taught as children by our parents, by teachers and by other significant adults. Now, that's very much how we learn, absolutely. But the thing is, some of those things that we've been taught don't serve us so well and actually can weigh us down. Yeah, but give us that emotional baggage that we just don't need. So just to illustrate this a little bit more, let's take a work example. So as kids, we're taught that in order to get on in life, you need to work hard. We're also told to be helpful, to be polite, not to let people down, and of course, do our best as we can. All good things in their own way. But as we grow up, they actually can create pressure for us. So, using the work example, it's not unusual for companies and bosses to actually pile more and more work on us. You're kind of expected to work additional hours over and above our contracted ones. And it's not untypical for people, rather than pushing back, to just suck it up and try to get on with it. And it's because we don't want to go against all of those things that we've been taught. We don't want to let anyone down. We don't want to seem to be a failure. And it's all a story that we're creating in our own head based upon our blueprint. So that was just one example, but I can absolutely guarantee that for every responsibility that you identify, there'll be a similar story behind it. It's not instantly apparent, but when you dig down, you'll actually find that you're holding certain beliefs about how you should behave, what the expectation is, whether it's your own expectation or whether it's somebody else's. So how do you find your way out of this? I recommend to start by listing out all your responsibilities. So I've mentioned work's an obvious one there. If you've got kids, see there's stuff around looking after them. Just that maintaining your relationship with friends, with family, and of course if you've got a partner, all of that stuff kind of comes with responsibility, as it should do. But get it all down on paper. The next thing is to think about why you actually take on board that responsibility. Now, some of it is obvious. If you've got kids, you've got a duty to actually look after them. But there's some other areas where if you have a dig around, think about what you were told as a child in terms of how you expect to respond, how you expect to behave, what you should say, what you should do. Now, were you taught that you must always go and visit your parents at the weekend, or whatever it is. What's the expectation there? Then once you've got that, have a think about whether those beliefs and that blueprint is actually working for you, or whether in fact it is actually adding to pressure and that feeling of overwhelm. So I recommend actually just taking one thing at a time, because otherwise that can create overwhelm in itself. So if you look at one responsibility, maybe the one where you have the strongest feeling that it's not really going the way you'd like it, and create a new story. You're in charge here. Just because you've got a set of beliefs, certain habits, you can absolutely change that up. So rather than the way it's playing out at the moment, what would be your new story? How would you like that to play out? So again, if we think about the work example, I would probably guarantee that you'd rather work fewer hours, ideally just your contracted hours. So then, to get you to that place, change up the story and tell yourself that it's acceptable to only work your contracted hours. That's all you're getting paid for after all. And not doing so isn't letting anybody down. You're still a valuable member of the team. You're still working hard. So create a positive story around this and then create an action plan. Now, don't be too ambitious. Go small in small steps. If you take the example of pulling back your hours, don't just suddenly go from working 60, 70 hours a week to going to 40, because that's going to feel really uncomfortable. Just decide to maybe trim off a few hours each week, and just gradually over the weeks, over the months, you're pulling it right back. Now, of course, there'll be times when it is necessary to work longer hours, but you decide when that's appropriate rather than making that the rule. I guarantee if you go through this process, looking at each and every responsibility, changing up the story, that weight will lift off you and you'll just feel lighter and you'll feel more energized and all round happier.